engaging so we can understand your views and make this summit the one that takes your career to the next level by committing to stay till the end. Now, as we welcome everyone, I want to check with all of you and can you please type in the chat box and let us know how many years of career experience do you have? How many years of career experience do you have? Santosh says 20, Sandeep says 20, Yusuf says 15 plus, Navneet 4, Deepa says 13, Sanjeev says 20, really fast over there, 10 plus, 12, okay, done. So as you're typing in the number of years of experience, you know that challenges like working at a different time zone, different location from where your family is. All of you know this, right? IQ, SQ, AQ, EQ, yeah? Intellectual quotient, social quotient, adaptability quotient, and the EQ, that is the emotional quotient. Now, EQ is one of the most foundational pillars of every human being, and we are missing out on a lot of things if we do not have it. It is scientifically proven now that successful people and leaders in the world are not the ones who have strong IQ, but the ones who have strong EQ. Let's deep dive and understand how emotions transform every area of your life, how to optimize it, and from there on, nurture your success. In the words of top CEOs, yeah, you want to know that, right? And leaders' brain work. Now, it is said that mind is everything. What you think, you become. And hence, our first topic today is train your brain to overcome the habit of procrastination and make powerful decisions. Okay, and I want to check with all of you that you know the speaker, but I want to tell you an inspiring journey that she's had from where she was to where she is right now in her career. Okay, let me tell you, when she started off, she failed in her first business venture as she was not able to make progressive decisions. She was stuck in old patterns of fear and anxiety. She was making decisions with her limited mindset. And as a result, she was procrastinating and she was not motivated. From there to where she is today, she is world-renowned therapist, author of the book You Matter, founder of D Mantra, TEDx speaker, and she's won multiple awards and recognition. She's known for eliminating the root cause of the problems and launching her students to the new heights of success by rewiring their brain pattern. Now she's going to be sharing with us over 2 decades of her experience in treating clients, including CEOs, Bollywood stars, and athletes, to empower us to achieve the same fast, effective results through her Ultimate Success program. She specializes in clearing success blocks with her specialized module, and such an honor to say that she's impacted more than 8 lakh people in the last 26 years of her experience. You all know who I'm talking about. Put it in the chat box right there. And can I request you all to please help me welcome on your screen India's leading brain and performance expert, Dr. Meghna Dixit.
Hi Divya, thank you so much for such a gracious introduction from you. Thank you everybody and welcome each one of you. Now tell me everyone, how many of you could have been somewhere else right now? Somewhere else. Type I if you could have been somewhere else right now. There you go, right? There you go. But you chose to come here for Career Growth Summit. So for you, it's important to upgrade your mindsets. It's important to upgrade your skills so that you can achieve a better life for yourself and your family. So what I want you to do is, I want you to quickly put your hand out like this. Come on, everybody, put out your hand like this. Take it up and pat your back and give me a high five on the camera and say, I am a champion. Come on, everybody, type that in the chat box. I am a champion. There you go. Awesome. Beautiful. Super awesome. Now, everybody here, how many of you felt that Divya was amazing? Can we all give a lot of love to Divya right now for hosting this summit for all of us and being so flawless and so amazing with her uplifting energy. Let's give a lot of love to Divya, and thank you, Divya, for starting with such high energy and intensity. Now, Divya has shared a lot about me, but I'm going to take a moment for you to, how many of you are meeting me for the first time? You have never met me before. How many of you are meeting me for the first time? Type I in the chat box if you're meeting me for the first time. Oh, so many of you, right? So let me share a little bit about myself and my background. So I'm a doctor, researcher, author of the book You Matter, and a leading brain and performance expert. I'm practicing medicine and performance science since last 25 years. This is my 26th year of practice. And I help people rewire their brain to achieve massive success in every areas of their life. Now, I'm here today for the next few minutes with you to share with you what can you do to rewire your brain to overcome procrastination. How many of you are having challenges of procrastination? You're all the time delaying stuff. You know what you need to do. You need to wake up. You need to do this. You need to work out. You need to focus on your project. You need to do, and you keep procrastinating, right? So we're going to talk a lot about how to overcome procrastination. I'm also going to give you a few growth hacks so that you can actually start taking that effort to overcome your challenges. And what happens in the brain of the leading CEOs? How do they make the powerful decisions to reduce their procrastination and increase their productivity? Now, remember one thing, before we move forward, I want you to understand something very, very critical, that so many of you said that you have challenges with procrastination, right? And how many of you feel that you have your anxiety, you have self-doubt, you have confusion? When it comes to taking sincere decisions to progress in your life, you know there's a gut feeling inside that you should be doing this, but there is a flutter and fear inside you that at the same time, there are two parts of, like, practically one part of you is saying that do this, this is going to give you that extra extra thing in your life, and this part of you is all the time pulling you back. How many of you are experiencing that? Anxiety, fears, confusion, self-doubt, overthinking, negative thinking, procrastination, perfectionism, all of that. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to take your both hands like this up. This is your procrastination, perfectionism, anxiety, fear. Do this with me. Self-doubt, confusion, overthinking, negative thinking. All of that, there is a chatter going on inside you. Okay? And this is the one that is asking you to have this chatter. Hear me out now, okay? Let me explain this to you in a doctor's language. How many of you have had fever in your life? Type I if you had fever in your life. And how many of you took the medicines from the chemist for fever? The fever came down, but after 3-4 hours, it spiked back up. So you had to take another pill, and that fever came down. Then another pill, then the fever came down. After 2-3 days, you realize that this doesn't seem like a regular exhaustion fever. I need to go to the doctor. You go to the doctor does your thorough checkup, and then after that, the doctor writes your prescription to tackle the infection in your body. And the moment you take the medicines for infection, your fever automatically goes away. How many of you have that experience? I've seen other people going through that experience. There you go. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. Okay. Now remember, all of these things that were going on, the chatter, it's like that fever. No matter how many alarms you set, no matter how many journals you write, how many to-do lists you write, no matter how many sticky notes you post, or you download apps like Pomodoro, it doesn't work for you, right? That is because you are not focusing on the root cause or the real infection that's causing this fever in your life. So what is the real problem? What is it that you need to tackle in your life so that you can permanently get rid of procrastination and make powerful decisions? So what I want you to focus on right now is, do you have any of these emotions inside you? Fear, anxiety, like a chronic emotions, frustration, dread, remorse, restlessness, doubt, resentment, panic, stress, guilt, uncertainty, shame. Do you have any of this, and which is a chronic, which is a long-standing stuff in your space? Regret and guilt and shame. Now, all of these are actual problems. Your root cause of procrastination is your emotions that are unresolved emotions. Think about it. The day you wake up happy, how many of you feel more inspired, more motivated, and everything just goes, brilliantly? You start your day well, and it's like, as if it's like Hindi movie, la, 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 and everything just is so fabulous on that day, and you just feel so good. by the end of the day. How many of you have experienced that? There you go, right? We all have experienced it. But when you go through some sort of you wake up with anxiety or fear or unknown emotion that you feel, why am I feeling this way? Don't even know. That is a day you constantly feel uninspired, unmotivated, and have you observed this? The day you wake up with feeling low within yourself is the day you constantly face obstacles. You had a fight at home, it just spills over the mood and it just goes on, and the whole day goes into the negative cycle. How many of you have experienced the negative cycles in your life? Right? All of us have in our life. Now note this down, okay? You actually procrastinate while you're making the decision to take that action is because in that moment your brain perceives pain attached to that particular decision. Like, say, let me give you an example. Example is like, suppose you have to get into shape and you want to work out and you want to make sure that you eat healthy. Now, if you have in your mind your comfort food like cakes and chips is making you feel better, helping you to release that serotonin in your body. Serotonin is one of the happy hormones. If that is released in your body by eating that comfort food, now suddenly you have to go on a diet, you have to work out, and you have to quit all those chips and all those cakes, etc., foods that are comfort food for you. Now your brain is feeling that pain. The brain is feeling as if there's a child inside you that's feeling deprived of not getting what you want. You can use the same example towards any addictions, like how many of you have addiction of all the time being on social media? Yeah, you just go on to, how many of you have addiction of starting on the Netflix and you continuously are on the Netflix? How many of you have an addiction of playing video games or watching porn or maybe gambling? How many of you here have an addiction of getting in from one toxic relationship to finding another toxic relationship? Getting from one uncomfortable, difficult job to getting into another uncomfortable, difficult job? Finding one boss irritating and creating problems for you, changing the job and having the same sort of a similar kind of a job in another space as well. Now you understand the common factor in all of this is who? Who's the common factor? The boss is changing, the job is changing, the common factor. There you go. High five to all of you champions. Good job identifying it. Now, if you are the common factor, then where do you need to focus on is your patterns, your brain. Why is it going into the same loop again and again? There are three brains that all of us have. Okay, three brains. Write this down. The earliest in the evolution, the human being developed, the layer of the brain is called as a reptilian brain. Reptilian brain is your primary brain, and its function is to keep you safe and comfortable. Its function is for you to stay away from any sort of a discomfort. Its function is to keep you in that comfort zone. Then comes the layer of a mammalian brain. Mammalian brain is your emotional brain, which has got the centers, emotional centers that keeps helping you and showing you if there are any sort of a threat and danger. And the topmost layer of your brain is called as neocortex. Neocortex is your thinking brain. Neocortex is a thinking brain. That's the topmost layer, superior level of brain, a human brain that can think big things, goals and dreams and ideas. Mammalian brain is the emotional brain that only responds to anything emotionally. And the reptilian brain is your primary brain that helps you to stay comfortable and safe. Now, how many of you have heard this before, that if you want to achieve your goals, you have to get out of your comfort zone? There you go, right? Now imagine if there is a part of your brain that is keeping you comfortable, how do you get that big part of your brain, which is the oldest brain, which is coming from 7.5 millions of years, is a brain that only functions on fight and flight. Whenever there is a pain in your life, it tries to run away from the pain and it goes towards the pleasure. How many of you have noticed in your life that you're either fighting with something or somebody, or you're running away from something or somebody? Type I in the chat box. That means, why are you doing that all the time? Is because your reptilian brain is active and controlling your life. And your reptilian brain is a very, very limited thinking brain. It doesn't understand big goals and ideas. It only understands survival. And imagine, if you're only going to remain in survival, how are you going to ever create something different? So every time you want to take that actions towards achieving your goals, that survival brain kicks in and pulls you back, and it gives you the instruction to not take action. And that's the reason you procrastinate. Is this getting clear now? Type C in the chat box if it is getting clear. Your brain till today hugely depends on the reptilian brain that runs away and fights back. Because today, even though we do not have the tigers, those are going to attack us, we do have the triggers. And these triggers could be social media, news channels, newspapers, some family member, some work colleague, your losses, your EMIs, traffic jams. Any kind of a stress today is a tiger for that brain. And the moment it sees that tiger, it starts getting, triggered constantly. Now, how does it get triggered? And how can you start stopping the trigger? See, do you agree with me? Back then, the tigers were there for limited period of time. If a tiger is approaching you, it's going to be half an hour, 45 minutes. But today's tigers are 24/7, yes or no? Today's tigers are 24/7, correct? Now, how do some people, even though they have 24 hours only, make those powerful decisions and get to the leadership roles? How do some people become the CEOs and leaders in the companies? What do they do? What happens in their brain? So let's take this down, okay? Now what happens is, if you notice, as a child, I'm going to take you back into your childhood. As a child, if your emotional needs were not met, if the adults in the family did not allow you to express how you're feeling, and they told you to keep quiet, how many of you here were told to keep quiet and not express how you feel as a child? Just say I in the chat box if you want. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it. Now, if you went through that experience, as an adult, you will experience that you have a challenge negotiating. You have a challenge in selling your abilities and skills. You will have a challenge in speaking up in presentations and boardroom meetings. How many of you resonate with that? Type R in the chat box. And if you were a child who retaliated, who were aggressive as a child, who was expressive and aggressive, how many of you were very aggressive as children? If not very, maybe aggressive. Like I was always, I was the one who never, kept quiet. I kept retaliating. You will observe now in the boardroom, when you're sitting and something comes up to you, or in the negotiations or in the interviews or something, you'll end up speaking something irrelevant and something stupid. And then you will start regretting about, why did I speak that? I should have spoken like this. How many of you resonate with that? Type R in the chat box. Thank you for sharing again. Now, why does that happen? That happens because your brain has neural pathways. imagine your brain as lots of highways inside, okay? Think of your brain, which is having a lot of highways passing by. There are neuro pathways, okay? And there are two important neuro pathways that helps you to make the decision on the spot in that moment. Every information that comes to our brain passes through these two neuro pathways. The fastest neuro pathway in our brain reaches to the amygdala. Amygdala are the two glands, they're almond-shaped glands that are there. These are your emotional centers. And they are your alarms in your brain. And these alarms are all the time buzzing. When any information comes, when any information, like suppose your boss reminds you of an authority figure in your life as a child, maybe of your teacher, maybe of your father, maybe of your mother, whatever the authority figure in your childhood, if your boss subtly reminds you of that authority figure, now you as a child had the pattern of either keeping quiet or retaliating. The moment you see your boss, the neuro pathway gets fired up and you immediately react to the situation. The second neuro pathway in your space is going from the information, goes into your brain and it travels to your prefrontal cortex or your neocortex. Now, every time the information goes to your neocortex, it's your decision-making center, it's your conscious center. So you're very aware of what to speak, when to speak, what not to speak. And the leaders in any industry have the ability to take this information to the neocortex faster to respond to the situation rather than allowing their amygdala to react to the situation. The first reaction everybody will have to run or fight. But if you wait for that reaction to pass, which is very difficult for a lot of us, you will see that you will be able to respond to the situation well. And making the right decision from your innate intuitions, every human being in your neocortex have an innate intuition to make the right decisions. But the only problem is the information is not reaching the neocortex before you take the decision. Now you can start training your brain to do that. How do you do that? Let me share that with you now. Okay, start taking the note of it. The people, those who are living ordinary lives and the people, those who are living extraordinary lives, have two differences. Ordinary people fall into the trap of instant gratification. We are all wired for the reptilian brain. It is wired to fall for the instant gratification, to run away or fight, to grab that food, to grab something. We want to have that instant results. How many of you in your life constantly feel impatient and you look for immediate results? Type I in the chat box if you do that. There you go, right? Now we are all wired for the instant gratification. We need to consciously focus on delayed gratification. And the delayed gratification is the one that gives you the better results. How do you practice the delayed gratification? I'm going to give you some insights about practicing the delayed gratification. So start writing this down. You know what you need to do is you start small to practice delayed gratification. Now suppose you have a habit of eating that dessert after every meal. You get the sweet, you feel like having some sweet, What you need to do is you need to tell yourself, I'll wait for 5 minutes. You wait for 5 minutes and then you have it. After that, what you do is every day you delay it 1 more minute, 1 more minute, 1 more minute. Say suppose you bought something online. Now before buying, you put it in the cart and you leave it in the cart for at least 7 days. Anything that you want to buy, not the necessities, but anything extravagant, put it in the cart and keep it for 7 days. Start writing the gratitude journal. What are the 5 things that you're grateful for in your life? Every single day. And last but not the least, write your goals every day. What are your goals? So the 2 things that you need to understand about your goals is, one is your goals about what success you want to achieve in your life. Those are the goals. Like I want to be reaching this position career. I want to make so much money. I want to do this and I want to do that. Now, all of us have those goals. Along with those goals, do you have the action goals? Remember, everybody lives two lives. The life that you're living and the life that you want to live, there's a gap between that, right? Now, what's the gap? Do you agree with me that all of us have two lives? The life that you're living and the life you want to live? The gap is not action. The gap is your learning. This person who's living the life and this person who wants to live the life does not have the same ability. So what are your learning goals that you need to start? Your technical skills that you need to learn to upgrade your career and your mindset skills. Every person here has to promise one thing and commit to yourself that you will become a lifelong learner. Every successful person, you can ask anybody on the planet, are constant learners. So how many of you are going to be lifelong learners? Type LLL in the chat box. It's a conscious effort to upgrade your mindset. It's a conscious effort to upgrade your technical skills. That's where you will reach that level of success. Fabulous. So be ready now for me to share with you get over your procrastination. Get your pen and paper out and start with this. There are 4 categories of procrastinators. I have divided them. How many of you keep saying that I work well under pressure? How many of you keep saying that you keep waiting for the deadlines? You keep waiting for the last day when you want to submit something. And then you pull that overnighter and you somehow finish the project and you give it. Now remember, you are not a procrastinator, but you are a perfectionist. You never feel that you have done a great job and you all the time feel that I can do something better. How many of you know what I'm saying? Type I in the chat box if you know what I'm saying. So what you need to do is your growth hack here is your challenge is not starting, right? So instead of keeping the deadline in your mind, what your growth hack is, you're going to set the starting date. You set the starting date like you want to write that project or you prepare a presentation. Every day you're going to keep the 10 minutes aside to write something about that project or that presentation. Something. It may be right, it may be wrong, you may change it later, but the discipline is to do this every single day. So how many of you are going to set the start date here? Type I in the chat box, my pressure cookers. The second one is a poor mouth. How many of you keep saying, I'm so lazy right now? There you go, right? Now you're not lazy. You have a challenge of switching off. Even though physically you're switching off from the work, you're mentally always engaged in the work. How many of you are mentally always engaged in the work? At the back of the mind, the chatter is constantly on. So your problem, you're not lazy. Your problem is you're not able to disconnect. You're not able to take a break, mental break. So what you have to do is your growth hack is to recharge, to take a break after every 30 minutes. Set an alarm to take the break, maybe listen to music, go for a walk for 5 minutes, come back and start again. So how many of you are PMs here? Type PM in the chat box if you are a PM here. The oversold. How many of you keep saying, I'm so busy? Now, if you keep saying, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, the challenge is you're not busy. You lack clarity. Now, because you lack clarity, you create busyness to avoid the uncomfortable situation or to avoid confrontation or avoid the conversation. So your growth hack is introspection. Ask yourself, what am I trying to avoid? How many of you resonate with this? That you lack clarity and so you go and you say yes to everything. You don't know where to say no, and you fear that if you say no, you'll either lose out on an opportunity or people won't like it. So you're going to make sure that you're going to introspect every single day, what am I trying to avoid today, and you're going to take that action. How many of you are oversold here? Type OS in the chat box if you're going to take that action today. Thank you for sharing. And the fourth one and the last one is the ideator. I just had the greatest idea. These are the people, those who keep thinking about the new ideas all the time. Your challenge is you are addicted to the shiny objects. Your challenge is completion on the first idea that you have taken. So what we need to do is, you need to keep a small diary and a pen with you and start writing down every idea that comes to you. Your fear is, what if you forget the best idea that you got? So when you note it down, you tell your reptilian brain that you're not going to forget. And what you need to do here is, you promise yourself that I will finish and complete the first one, and then only I will touch the next one. So how many of you are ideators? Type I in the chat box if you're an ideator. Awesome. So how many of you are going to use these tools right now that I gave you? Type me with lots of ease in the chat box. Now last I want to share this with you, okay? Remember one thing. The life that you're living here and the life that you want to live here, and the transition that you want to make, and you want to be that leader in your industry, you want to progress in your career, can never happen without you learning something new. Remember, if you type a spelling of learning, everybody type the spelling of learning in the chat box right now. Everybody type the spelling of learning in the chat box. Can you see this spelling of learning? If you remove L, there's earning in learning. There's earning in learning. So how many of you are here to earn more money? So you have your answer now. There's earning in learning. You be the lifelong learner and you will be the lifelong earner. Give me a high five right now, champions. And with that, my time is over. Over to you, Divya. Thank you very much one more time for having me here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Meghna Dixit. And wow, that is what we wanted to start.